Yo, what up, nerds? Welcome to the new year. We're in 2018. I have been away for a little while. I hope everyone had a great holiday and great new year. And as you can see, we've changed it up a little bit. Nothing too crazy, but we got a new TV, and long story short, we had to use the original setup that I had to then place a TV on that, so I have had to change up the setup and the style of what we usually do. But anyway, that's unimportant. We are Anime Streaming Showcase, and today we're going to look at a show, our first big show of 2018. And before I'm going to do all that, I want to say, hey, welcome back, thanks, all that fun stuff. I know it's been a little bit of a while, and I will talk about all of that later, but we're going to hop into our new episode, and let's just get started. We're going to look at Madoka Magica, a show from 2011 that I think still holds up and was a surprise then and could very well be a surprise now if you have somehow holed out and not actually seen it at this point. So let's just hop right into it with a brand new first episode of 2018, halfway through January. Every few years, an anime series debuts that practically changes the entire medium for the better, whether it's through its storytelling, art direction, message, accessibility, whatever. And in 2011, Mahou Shoujo Madoka Magica was one such show that gave rise, or at least renewed a vigor for genre shifts and tonal distortions. If you have somehow gone this long with staying oblivious to what Madoka Magica is, that's exceptional, because this series was a surprise for many and has gone on to be a success for the industry for a number of reasons. It's won awards, it's broke home media sale records, it's influenced multiple writers. Madoka Magica was a magical phenomenon, and I still think it's a worthwhile venture for new and old viewers alike. Looking at the production forefront, you have an all-star crew behind Madoka Magica. On direction, we have Akuyuki Shinbo, writer Gen Yorobichi, composer Yuki Kajiura, with anime studio Shaft handling the creation of Urobichi and Shinbo's ideas. Urobichi was the biggest name attached to Madoka Magica that personally pulled me into the series, as he was a way of creating incredibly personable, tragic characters that draw me in. I was first introduced to his talents a couple years earlier when he worked on Phantom Requiem for a Phantom, but I was also aware of his visual and light novels, though I'd never journeyed down that particular path. Urobichi has a style that you may be thinking is divisive, but he has no qualms presenting a bleak, nihilistic world and personas, but he never comes off as edgelord nonsense to me. And the charm of Madoka Magica using his abilities is that there is an underlying uncomfortability throughout the first episode that's leading me to believe that this bright, cheery, magical girl show isn't going to maintain its mood for very long. I will not spoil the better parts of Madoka Magica, but I do urge, if you are not a fan of spoilers and the like, to go into Madoka Magica as blind and as fresh as possible. The charm and the tonal and the genre shifts are best left undiscovered. I'd urge you to cut off the video here if you're intrigued and to come back later, as I want to go further into Madoka Magica's appealing structure. Okay, those of you that are still here, or those of you that have come back, let's talk shifts and development, because Madoka Magica has mostly terrific development and great shifts. I see mostly terrific as its main lead. Madoka Kaname is the weakest developed main character I've experienced in a long time. She's not bad, but when compared to every other character in the series, she has next to none through the 12-episode run. Usually it's an explosion at the very end. She's often a bystander, and she's force-fed plot and backstory of everyone else around her, and when she finally gets the bulk of her development, it's thrust at her in the final episodes. Even by comparison to someone like Sailor Moon's Usagi, she was also a late bloomer in development, but hers was parsed out over the entire series versus an explosion in the climax. Thankfully, the rest of the cast can carry Madoka's weaknesses, as the archetypes of the tomboy in Sayaka, the mentor in Mami, and the she speaks through her actions Himura deliver a well-rounded team. The story starts off as a deceivingly charming magical girl series, almost very similar to the Card Captor Sakura series, wherein Madoka's family are gathered around the breakfast table and all of the normal flows are hitting normally. But there's a constant air of danger or uneasiness rolling throughout as Madoka's day continues. It's not until the latter half of the first episode that we experience the first shift, and the character Kyube is introduced, urging Madoka to make a pact with them and become a magical girl. But despite its ambiguously cute features, it's a very unsettling creature that it rapidly introduces us and Madoka into the world of magic, magical girls, and witches, always still pleading for that pact to Madoka and her best friend Sayaka. The witch web expands further and further as the plot develops, and the twists and turns come at just the right times to keep the viewer entranced, but never overwhelmed. Episode 3 is where the biggest and best component of the tonal shift occurs, as we're shown that despite the beauty and charm on the surface, there's a vastly dark and dangerous side to the magical girl genre, one rarely touched on in modern times. Reality kicks in, and despite the glitz and glamour, there's more to be wary of than cute outfits and magical prowess. Kyuubi is a maniacal creation and a perfect subversion of the cute companion character often seen in the Mahou Shoujo genre. Thanks to the Kyuubi character, we're experiencing the true nature of itself, as well as a realistic representation of asking the right questions and the results of one's actions, a whole monkey paw situation. The naivete of the children is the strength of Kyuubi, as children often act before thinking. I can promise you wild adventures and experiences, but before I can give you that, you must offer me within a small contract. It's a manipulation tool everyone uses, especially parents, to control someone like children, and it even helps themselves benefit from a situation. Kyuubi's endgame is considerably worse than most parents, but the talents and application are just like any adult would implement to their child. They're never pushy from an antagonistic stance, but Kyuubi does start getting more and more manipulative over the course of the series, urging Madoka and her friends to make the pact by placing them in various situations that might sway their adherence. So with Yorubichi providing a plot of this vein, it's now up to the director, Shibo, to help animate and create a world to encompass the ideas of Yorubichi in threading it all together. And thanks to Shaft and their avant-garde cinematography and style, Madoka Magica is a visual journey that helped usher in a new approach to presentation. While the real world is presented in a modern, feasible light, the world of witches, magical girls, and all who have become corrupted and cursed by their powers and mental state is dripping with a personality attributed to the personae of the former magical girl, now a witch. The dream worlds these characters inhabit overflow with a truly unseen art flair. The world must truly be seen to be believed. Madoka Magica was an eye-opening series for me, and I was still a little bit of a burgeoning anime viewer when it initially aired. I'd gotten out of my shonen comfort zone a bit, but I was still judging a number of series simply by their appearance, something that I've gotten a lot better at, and as I usually end up joining the alternative more to the popular choices once I get past my hang-ups. Additionally, this was airing at a particularly dark time in my life when I was unemployed and deeply depressed and barely interacting with people outside of a few avenues like the internet. My sleep schedule was erratic or practically non-existent, if at all, and I would spend literally all of my free time on forums and the like. I recall finally deciding to watch Madoka Magica on a random evening at like 2 a.m. in the morning, and then devouring the entire series immediately thereafter. I do not advise this viewing method as it is hardly maintainable or healthy, but again, I was not in a good place. Even still, through all the near insomniac dark period, I was able to experience one of the strongest dark fantasy shows of the last 10 years, and I love it. Every instance of the credits rolling at the end of the episode had me ready to go on to the next one until I was just empty and barren. I'm completely, incredibly happy to have been able to take the time to go out of my comfort zone with Madoka Magica and experience what it really had to offer, as well as its influences it's had on present series. It's started a trend in the industry, or at least reinvigorated a trend, and helped give it a boost it needed for a little while. If you're a fan of shows like Girl Last Tour, Made in Abyss, series that have come out in the last couple of years, you kind of owe it to yourself and Madoka Magica to go rewatch it or experience it to see how it sort of laid the groundwork of what those shows have now been able to capitalize on and push forward in the industry. So if any of that sounds good, if you're looking for a magical girl show that likes to mess with the tropes and the ideas and just have twists and turns and a ridiculously cool art style throughout its entire run, Madoka Magica is definitely a show that I think you should add to your list, and it's practically available everywhere. I know Crunchyroll has it, Hulu has it subbed and dubbed, Netflix has it subbed and dubbed, Netflix has the 3 movies as well. There's really no way to not watch this show, honestly, and I do think even after 7 years of it being a thing, it still holds up, it's still incredibly well done, and it's owed a little bit of credit for just what it has done for the industry. So at least give it the 3 and see and go from there and see what you think. So there we have it, our brand new ask for 2018, the first one, and I'm going to get back on schedule. When I wasn't doing these videos, I was really sad and depressed and I hated it, but I was also able to write. So I've got plenty of scripts in my backlog that I'm going to be breaking out and working out over the course of the year. I think I did 30 some odd numbers last year. I'm going to try and do more than that, or at least maintain an average and at least do that many. I would love. I'm already off course to do 52, so I can't do that. But I really do enjoy doing these, and in my break, I had some time to think, and I was also watching other like YouTubers, Anatubers, or whatever. And there's this mindset that I kept falling into, or I kept comparing myself to. And I know I'm hardly an Anatuber or YouTube essayist on the level of so many great ones out there. And I'm not one to tackle a particular trope or idea incredibly well, as I usually look at the broad strokes and overlook the smaller, more poignant themes and the elements, i.e. I am dumb. So I do my best to look at as many series in a very open sense, and I try not to devote too much time to one subject. I don't want to create a 30-minute video about one thing in a series that is so long. And as the industry is full of so many products, I want to look at and share as many as I can versus focusing on a singular one. My buddy Robert, aka 23 Breach on Twitter, gave me a reminder and honestly a really swift kick in the ass when he said this about his creations that he does. If you've been dragging your feet on a personal project, make a plan to just start it soon. It likely won't be successful, but you'll have the ability to say, I made that by the end of it. And he's correct. As down and sullen as I get about the payoff of doing these videos and writing these scripts, I'd kick myself even harder for never even bothering. In fact, like I said, the weeks I do miss a show, my stomach turns and it just drains me to think that I'm not creating and doing something that I really enjoy. I do enjoy doing this shit. And when I do see the numbers and stuff, whenever I see the whatever of that, I see comments and I see likes and I see all the shares and stuff, and that makes me happy, because even if just one person takes the time to share their thoughts or share the video or like it, I can keep doing what I'm doing. It helps. Alright, let's get away from the soul and the jury. What I've actually started and what I was doing over the course of the year was I was sending out a doc asking for questions, like questions you want to hear about me, just things, particularly they could pertain to anime, but you could also ask like some questions, nothing too crazy, too personal, anything like that. But I like video games, anime, TV, Netflix, like all that fun stuff. Like I'm happy to answer just about anything. So I've got a couple questions. I'm going to start with one from Jesse Moore. He likes to ask, what anime would you suggest to someone who is just getting back into it, but he feels very overwhelmed with the sheer amount of anime streaming everywhere? Preferably anime that doesn't have a ton of episodes. And that's a good question, because it is really hard to try and convince someone what is good, because obviously it's all subjective. I may say Cowboy Bebop is one of the best anime series of all time, but if you are not a fan of westerns or sci-fi or heavily dramas, or that, immediately Cowboy Bebop is now moot. It's not going to be a show that you're interested in. So it's really hard to say. What I would suggest in that case is, if you are either very particular, or you're picky, or you're completely foreign and you just want to hop right into it, go to my anime lists, look at shows you have seen, and more often than not there will always be lists of similar, or viewers that watch this, readers that like this also liked X, and it's just a sort of drip down of shows that are similar in their styles, or they have same directors, same writers, same production studios, whatever. And that's a good first step. But honestly, if you're new to it, just look for something that looks cool to you. Like if it has a popularity but it looks really cool, there's a reason it is popular, so you could check it out. But honestly, it's really hard to say, because anime is so diverse. There's literally so much stuff. There's no way anyone could ever finish any of it. It's literally 30 new series every season. Every 3 months, there's 30 more series. It's a mess. There's always something happening. But if you're jumping back into it, or if you're unfamiliar, find your comfort zone, start there, and then eventually start branching out. If you see something you like, something that looks good, try it. I always do the 3 and C method. Take 3 episodes of a new show that you're maybe unfamiliar with, and if you're not feeling it after 3 episodes, drop it, move on to something else. If you're still feeling it, stay with it. And yes, a show that has a lot of episodes, there's plenty that I could recommend to you, but I will not, usually because it's such a time sink. No one wants to be told, oh, you have to watch essentially 10 seasons or 100 episodes of this show or anything like that. I love Hunter x Hunter. That show is 148 episodes, and then they're all fucking fantastic, but I will be very hesitant to offer that up to someone who's a newbie or is getting back into it, because that's a lot of time to devote to something. So I would suggest things that are 13 to 26 episodes. So, too long, didn't read, find your comfort zone, stick with it for a little bit, and then look for stuff that's in that similar style and sort of branch out. That's what I would say to that question. So, I will leave a link to the doc in the description so you can ask more questions there. And I'm going to try and do these on a regular basis, assuming that my time hasn't run too long. And I know this video is already going to be really long, but again, I haven't done it in like 4 weeks. And I'm really overdue and I want to talk, and so that's what I'm going to do. But I am going to start wrapping it up because it's the weekend. You guys probably have a lot of shit to do. You probably want to play video games, and Black Mirror exists, and Stranger Things is probably still a trending item. I don't know. I haven't got around to it. I'll get to it eventually. No, I won't. But as always, I want to thank you guys for watching, for commenting, liking, sharing, and all that fun stuff. It really does mean a lot, even if I don't exactly get excited a lot. But I do want to thank you again, and I'm going to wrap this up. And I'm also going to go play video games and watch a bunch of anime and shit, because I got more scripts to write, because this shit never ends. But I love doing it. So I'm going to wrap it up, say bye, and I will see you dummies next time. See you, nerds.